Hey guys, what's going on? It's me, Jay. I just want to talk a little bit about this Max Caster situation that's going on with regards to AEW. Max Caster, for many who don't know, is a rapper slash wrestler who was a member of AEW, the AEW roster. And on a recent episode of AEW Dark, which is AEW's YouTube show, he came out to his rap. And during the rap, he he referenced the Simone Biles situation. And he said in the rap, um, to paraphrase, I'm going wild, I'm suffering mental health problems like I'm Simone Biles, basically mocking her, making fun of the situation that she's going through. Now, what do I think about it? And also referencing the Duke lacrosse case, which from way back in 2006. So now that Max, and he's been suspended um, for his actions for 2 months. What do I think about this? Well, in my opinion, it's good that he's being suspended, but I feel like he should be fired and let go from AEW because he doesn't need this. Excuse me, AEW doesn't need this kind of bad publicity. AEW is a 2-year-old wrestling company, and they don't need they don't need to be having this kind of controversy in their company and being only 2 years old. So far, they've been doing really well in publicity, and WWE has been doing really shitty. And they get more good press than bad press. This is the first thing ever that I've really heard. Well, this is the Sammy Guevara thing from 2 years ago, where he said he wanted to rape Sasha Banks. Now, this really puts a damper on AEW's whole mantra because the whole mantra behind AEW is that they want to give the wrestlers more creative control, more creative freedom over promos and matches, and to be able to script their promos and matches themselves more than relying on the writers like in WWE. But if they do stuff like this and they want to be current and they want to be edgy, but at the same time, you look like you're just attacking black women. You know what I mean? Because you referenced the Duke lacrosse case and you referenced Simone Biles, and you know this is a kind of racially divisive issue because the people that came after Simone Biles for taking time off due to having the twisties and her aunt's passing was mostly white conservatives. So coming after Simone Biles and referencing this case, you make it look like you're just attack. You're coming out with a racially insensitive and sexist rap against just black women, and that can't be good for AEW because AEW, since its inception, has positioned itself as being the more politically progressive company in contrast to WWE. You know, not only were they going to let their wrestlers um, script their own matches and script their own promos, but they also had Nyla Rose, the first transgender professional wrestler in there, and they also had like Sonny Kiss, the first one of the first openly gay characters on there. They've also had they have I think they did some intergender stuff too. I'm not sure. You know what I mean? But they've also pushed a lot of international stars like the Japanese wrestlers, like Japanese female wrestlers like Rio. You know what I mean? So they've positioned themselves as more politically progressive, um, lining up with Tony Khan's personal politics, not necessarily with his dad, Shad Khan, who was the owner of the company, but with Tony Khan's progressive politics as a progressive company. So I remember when they first came out, they had AOC, one of the most progressive senators in Congress, endorsing them. You know, because they have Brandy Rhodes as one of the one of the administrators there as a black woman, and she's in an interracial relationship with Cody Rhodes, and because they have Nyla Rose, and because they have um, all this, they position themselves as the progressive contrast to the WWE, which was seen as being in bed, of course, and it was with Donald Trump and his conservative regime. But now this comes out with Max Caster, and even though WWE, even though AEW took action, right, and AEW um, suspended him for 2 months, the mere fact this happened is going to call attention to AEW in a negative way, because a lot of people don't know that AEW exists. You know what I mean? People are still, since 2001, and even before, it could be argued that in the whole run of WCW's dominance um, in wrestling, that WWF was still synonymous with professional wrestling, even though WCW was beating them in the ratings in '96 and '97 and part of '98, because WWF and later the WWE had done such a great job with branding that, hey Lisa, how are you? Such a great job with branding that people pe- people saw that they people saw that they were synonymous with wrestling. So when people thought about wrestling, they thought about the WWF and now the WWE. People don't know what AEW is, so the bad publicity that this rap is generating against black women with with regards to AEW. Now, when the casual viewer hears the words AEW, they're not going to think a progressive company that is co-headed by um, whose chief branding officer, whose co-head is a black woman, or who gets the endorsement from AOC online. They're going to think of that company that Max Caster had a rap show on YouTube. Let's not forget that too. A lot of AEW's fans are the internet wrestling community, IWC, the people here that we talk about all day long. You know what I mean? The IWC, the internet wrestling community, is the primary community that AEW caters to. And the show was on YouTube. It's their B show, but still getting this mainstream publicity, coming out dissing Simone Biles, bringing up the Duke lacrosse case in the rap, which was something that um, people don't even think about, this Duke lacrosse case that happened, but way back in 2006. But him bringing it up shows that he showing that his character has some kind of animosity, I would think, towards African American women. And when you position yourself as a progressive company, as having so many minorities and having the first transgender wrestler and having a robust women's division, and then you go do something like this, a rap that basically um, it makes light of rape. Okay, the girl in the Duke lacrosse case lied about rape, but still, okay, um, still, it's a situation. It's a Warner Brawley. It's a situation that is well known. Okay, and if it had happened hypothetically, still it would have been bad. The fact that he referenced it shows where his head is at. Yeah, AEW, Lisa, All Elite Wrestling. It was, of course, founded by Cody Rhodes and Brandy Rhodes in 2019. Um, and they've had a tremendous run so far and a tremendous track record in terms of their minority representation, at least on the face of it. I know Cody Cody Rhodes made a promo a couple of months ago. Right. Exactly. That too, Lisa. You're right. Exactly. Lisa brought that up. Larry Nasser molested Simone Biles. We brought that up in the Simone Biles um, video. So him making light of this and AEW going along with it and AEW just suspending him for 2 months is showing that they're no better than the WWE. Okay, okay, they suspended him for 2 months. That's a slap on the wrist. Tony Khan and Shad Khan, his father, the owners of AEW, need to, if they're gonna position themselves as the more progressive company aside from WWE, they need to be the progressive company. You know, they need to say we're not gonna stand for that, and they were doing that at first. Like their refusal to um their refusal to ever hire Hulk Hogan, Hulk Hogan being banned from AEW for life, shows that, well, was their way of showing that they're more progressive because of the the racial controversy that happened with Hulk Hogan in 2015. You know what I mean? Hiring all this diverse roster of wrestlers that are people of color, LGBT people, showed that they are progressive. Putting Brandy Rhodes in charge and putting people of color in charge like Tony Khan and Shad Khan, um, South Asian American, shows that they're really progressive. But this takes them 2 steps back. This puts them on the level with the WWE because this is something the WWE would have done. So what it's telling people that are potential fans that probably would want to watch AEW is telling them, okay, I'm not going to view AEW as an alternative, at least politically, because AEW is the same shit like WWE. They're on the same political wavelength. So if they're positioning themselves to be the the uh, the progressive, liberal, democratic alternative to the WWE's conservatorship, then they have to be that. And just simply slapping Max Caster on the wrist, giving him a 2 month suspension is not going to cut it. Now, granted, I know the show is on YouTube and it's not Dynamite. It didn't happen on their main show, which is Dynamite, which airs Wednesday nights on TNT. But their fan base is still primarily internet. You know what I mean? So this matters. And Max Caster is not okay. He's not John Moxley. He's not Kenny Omega. He's not one of their big stars. You know, but still, it gets a lot of press because he put Simone Biles in it, and Simone Biles' name is in the news. You know what I mean? So, and he put the Duke Lacrosse case in it, and because he did all that, and because the way he made the rap, showing you, man, this guy really has an axe to grind when it comes to black women. You know, and having a black woman as the head of the company is not a good look for her. You know what I mean? It's not a good look for her. And being a new company, brand new, people don't know anything about them. People associate wrestling with WWE, right? And they want to stick out from the competition, WWE, and they want to do it politically. But by slapping Max Caster on the wrist, I mean, really, if Max Caster um was let go by WWE, excuse me, by AEW, would this really see? Even I do it. Even I associate in my mind professional wrestling with WWE because they've been the top brand, the top of the heap since 2001. They've been the only game in town really that matters. You know what I mean? So if Max Caster was let go by AEW, would this really affect AEW's ratings? No, because he's not a John Moxley, he's not a Kenny Omega, he's not Chris Jericho. He's not MJF. He's not Darby Allin. He's none of these big names that are big stars in AEW. So if they let him go and he's on the B show, so what? You know, if they had to throw him as a sacrifice to show people, to show their supporters, even their supporters in Congress like AOC, that they are more progressive, and to make it clear that this kind of shit is not going to be tolerated in AEW. This is not the WWE. This is not UFC, where um, the heads of those organizations are political conservatives. AEW positions themselves as something different. So be something different. Don't just do exactly what WWE would have done, which is a slap on the wrist. Take sexual assault, sexual violence against women serious, because it remember the campaign last year, the Speak Up campaign, that a lot of wrestlers were coming out, both in WWE and in not really in AEW, but on the indie scene, and a lot of female wrestlers were coming out in the indie scene and saying that they were also sexually assaulted by their male counterparts. That was a thing. You know what I mean? Terry Runnels even came out and said that Brock Lesnar um, showed her his dick. You know what I mean? So it is a thing in the wrestling industry: assault of women, degradation of women, of course. So if AEW wanted to really take a stand in society, in wrestling, and in society at large, they would have to let go of Max Caster. You know, get rid of him. I mean, is he? The Acclaims are not even one of their biggest tag teams, from what I understand, on AEW Dark. But yeah, the Speak Up campaign last year, Lisa, was one of the biggest campaigns in professional wrestling as far as women's rights. So to me, this is what AEW has to do. This is what Tony Khan has to do. The responsibility is on Tony Khan. I mean, the ball is in Tony Khan's court. Tony Khan, Brandy Rhodes, and Cody Rhodes, to do something about this if they want to be different than the WWE, at least in how they treat their employees, especially their female employees, and the public image that they have in the company, because of the company. Because when it comes to WWE, Vince McMahon's public image is that of somebody who doesn't give a damn, and he's not for political correctness, and he's not for the talent, and he's not for the fans. He's somebody who just does whatever he wants to do, and he doesn't really care about anything. He in fact laughs in the face of government restrictions on him or censorships on him. He did in the '90s. He did in the '80s. He doesn't care what people think. He's politically incorrect, and he doesn't shy away from it. That's the image that Vince McMahon has cultivated in the media for years. But AEW doesn't have an image. AEW doesn't have a reputation. They have no reputation, but they can establish one now by big sticking out and doing something different. It may anger a lot of the wrestling fans, because a lot of the wrestling fans may think, oh, well, here they are agreeing with this SJW bullshit. You know what I mean? Like censoring things. But you have to think, when it comes to rape, and this is the second time this has happened with an AEW wrestler, and Sammy Guevara last year telling that he would rape Sasha Banks. When it comes to rape, you have to be just as diligent in sexual assault. You have to be just as diligent with this as you would with anything else. It's like I said in my last video about Cuomo. The Democrats had to sacrifice him. They had to take him out. They had to encourage him to step down. Why? Because they wanted to show how they were different than the Republicans. So AEW has to do the exact same thing. AEW has to show that they are different from WWE, and they're not going to tolerate it or put up with it or hide or curdle any of the wrestlers, and any of the performers that say things that are maybe perceived maybe perceived and outright are unacceptable in public discourse nowadays in 2021. Anyway, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit the bell button to see when my next video is coming out. Thank you, Lisa, for your contribution. And thank you. And, even if you guys disagree, okay, you're for freedom of speech. I am too. But AEW has a responsibility as a company to do the responsible thing. And I feel like Max Caster should be fired. Peace. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Love you.